What did you learn from doing that show, that documentary about that coach, the situation? Like, just
How
share
hard
with
was it for you not to just say, man, you full of
Yeah, thank you.
Thank y'all for tuning in. I'm Peanut Tillman, and this is the NFL Players Second Acts podcast. Roman Harper, my co-host.
What's up, boss?
Host, co-host. You like co-host, host? Which one you prefer?
Whichever one's better than you. Anyways, can we just get to it? All right. Anyways, all of our viewers and listeners out there, man, thank you as always for tuning in. Give us a rating, a review. Leave a couple comments.
Like, share, follow.
Like, share, follow. That whole deal. Wherever you pick up your podcast. Subscribe. There we go, Peanut. You on it today, baby. I love it. Keep bringing the energy, especially wherever you pick up your podcast, whether it's iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. Please make sure you tune in. Continue to pass the word. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend. Peanut, who is our special guest today, man? I mean, got to be the biggest afro we've had on the show.
It is by far the biggest afro we've had on the show. Seven-year linebacker, NFL vet. He won Super Bowl 46 with the Giants. He's a writer. He's a producer. He has a production company called Moore Street Productions. The show AllAmerican is loosely based on his life.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast, Spencer Paysinger.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, thanks.
The pride of Ladera Heights.
The pride.
I would say South Central, but my grandparents lived in Ladera Heights.
But now they say it's not even South Central anymore. It's just South LA.
No. If you're from South Central, it's still South Central. We do not say South LA. If you're a native, it is still South. Absolutely.
So who says South LA then? Let's clear that up.
Transplants, people that live from the valley that come over. But if you're from South Central, it is South Central.
Okay.
Till I die.
Till I die. Okay.
Thomas is
Even
all
our
in.
producer in the back, he's
all
like,
in.
"Oh, it's South Central."
Nah.
South Central. Yeah, exactly.
He's from Inglewood.
He's from Inglewood, so he know.
My cousin lives in Inglewood, so yeah. Yes.
I like it. I can get down with it. I thought South Los Angeles or South LA was a thing, but no, it's Inglewood, South Central all day. I respect it. All right. That's how the natives feel.
Spencer, I got a real question for you, and I saw your interview with Jamel Hill, and found out that you had your Super Bowl 46 ring stolen. So have you gotten this ring back? Have you had it replaced? Because at the time you're like, dude, I'm not paying $20-something thousand to get a new one. So I will just see what happens. And the guy tried to pawn it once, but that didn't happen. So like, what's up?
It's still in the wind.
It's still in the wind.
It's one of those things that you try not to think about throughout the year, but
my bad.
Twice it's like, yeah, thank you for that. But no, it's one of those things where, it's probably just in somebody's shoebox right now, in somebody's top drawer. But I always said, once I do a concept, whether it's TV or film, to $25,000, that was a couple years ago. With inflation, everything happening now, that's probably going up there. So
it's probably closer to 31.
Yeah. My goal is to, whether a film or TV show or something that can then pay for it. But I can't fit that right now. I got 2 kids at home.
I feel you. What about insurance? Doesn't insurance supposed to handle something?
See, if you want to get into the details of it, insurance lapsed for 1 month.
Oh,
for 1 month when we were finishing the second season of AllAmerican.
Okay.
And your card is on auto renew.
Auto pay, yeah.
The card expired, and I said, okay, I'll handle it once I get done shooting AllAmerican, whatever. That is exactly the time frame that it happened. So I called the insurance company and said it's lapsed. So
I bet you they was happy. It was like, yes.
They were very.
We don't have to pay out.
Imagine they were very happy.
Got him.
A lot of stroke of bad luck there.
That's terrible. So, all right, do you want to explain to everybody that doesn't know? Because I heard the interview, so I kind of know what happened. Do you want to kind of tell it real quick? Or?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
if you don't mind.
At the beginning of the year, a few years ago, LA just went through like such downpour to start the year. We found some mold down in my office. I let the window open, was kind of cleaning out some stuff, cleaning out the ceiling and whatnot. I unknowingly left the window cracked. Literally went out with my wife and my baby girl. My wife was pregnant at the time. Mm-hmm. It was the first day that LA had a lot of sun. So we went to the farmer's market. We did the whole thing. West Side, the farmer's market, the ice cream, the whole thing. Came back and saw that window was jimmied all the way open. So I ran inside, not knowing exactly what to do. They had literally left maybe 5 minutes before we got there. The office was ransacked, not knowing if they knew what was in there. But yeah, that's the gist of it. So it sucks, but to me it was one of those things where it's like, all right, I'm already transitioning out of the game. There's a lot of things happening right now. I'm going to use this as a moment to go, okay, like let me double down on what I'm doing now to potentially get that ring back. So
yeah. So I've been to 2 Super Bowls. You've been in 2 Super Bowls. You got one. I don't have one. You have one. What memories do you have from the Super Bowl?
Oh man, I think just realizing in that moment. I remember one of our first timeouts when we went onto the field for special teams play. Just knowing that legit millions of people are watching this game.
Yeah.
You know, you rewind about 12, 13 months prior to that, I actually lost the national championship against Cam Newton in Auburn. So in somewhat of a calendar year going from, you know, the pits of losing national championship, playing for Oregon, Chip Kelly, the whole thing, to then fast forward and now the confetti's falling on us. You know, my dad and my brother found me within, I don't know how they got onto the field so fast, but like within seconds of the confetti falling, I see my dad and my brother, I hug them, and it's just like tears of joy.
Yeah.
You know, that specifically that last play, I remember looking at, I think it was Tyler Sash and Greg Jones, rookie players during my time there. And we didn't see the last play. We were looking at each other and we said, listen, it's the last play. We know it's going to be a Hail Mary. If our side of the field screams, we're world champions. If their side of the field screams, we just lost. We closed our eyes, kind of like just huddling up. Our side screamed, we just took off running. I don't know what happened those first couple of minutes. I just know I was like a bat out of hell, just running
around crazy.
Stand it all, yeah.
So you went to the excuse me. So y'all go to the White House. You meet President Obama. Did he have any jokes? Because I know when you went to the White House and you met President Obama, he had jokes for you. He had like old man jokes.
He did.
Like, so who's the old guy on the team?
Yeah, he did. He hit me with 2 old man jokes. And so he was like, man, you must be the old guy on the team. I'm like, nah, bro, I'm like 26.
Yeah.
Like, no, I just gray hair. He was like, everybody starts laughing.
Yeah.
And then he like turns back around because I didn't, one of my other teammates had a mohawk and he was just like, oh man, at least you don't have this kind of haircut. But I was like, bro, you kind of getting gray like me too though. So yeah, he had a couple of jokes for me. So did he have anything? I tell anybody, I've never seen a person be able to control a room.
Exactly.
The way that he did. Like the charisma, like, I don't know what it is, but the moment he walked into the room, it was just like, he's the guy.
There, all the lights. The
Yes.
lights are on him. Everybody's looking at him, and he knows it. He knows it, and he can wield it like an axe. Like for me, seeing him for the time that I saw him. I mean, I was a rookie at this time, so I'm low on the totem pole. I can imagine like you talk to Victor Cruz and Eli Manning and Justin Tuck and those guys, like they probably got the stories with Barack. I was off to the side, trying like eating crackers and juice and whatnot, but. One thing I really tried to do was kind of big up him a little bit when we were shaking hands. Of when he shook my hand, I tried to come in with like the power grip, like "What's up, sir?" But he like again, he's trained. He came back with the like, "I got you." So I tried to get one on him. But
He's already ready.
He saw it coming.
Jedi mind trick.
Yeah.
You thought you were going to lead this dance.
Yeah. I got a picture of it too, and I tell everybody, I'm like, this is the moment I tried to get Barack Obama, and he came. Hit me, so yeah, he locked me out.
I love it. So in 2017, you actually went to the Carolina Panthers.
Yes.
And you shared a room with some greats in that room. Former teammates of both of ours, Shaq Thompson, Luke Kuechly.
Yep.
TD was still there before he was on his, before he left. What was that experience like? Like being in that room with that group of guys who had just come off a Super Bowl.
Good linebacker core.
Yeah, a really good group too. So, and they were already kind of figured out who they are.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to those guys because, they took me on at a time when I knew for a fact that my playing career was done after that season.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really?
I put it in my mind that, I wanted to play 7 years and walk away before I was 30. I didn't know how it was going to happen. Didn't know if I was going to be top of the league, bottom of the league, somewhere in the middle. But year 7 for me was, okay, I'm walking away from this. My time with the Carolina Panthers made me go, maybe I can get 1 or 2 more years out of this because the structure of how that organization was put together, whoever owned the team at the time, whatnot, not really talking about them, but like Coach Rivera on down. Mm-hmm. You're talking about guys who are watching film, 6:30, 7 a.m. in the morning. You can't find a room around the sort of the player quarters that isn't filled with 2 or 3 players at a time. You're sitting next to Luke Kuechly, like, again, Shaq Thompson, like, by the way, like I still owe him push-ups, and I'm never going to do this. So shout out Shaq. I'm not doing your push-ups. But it was just seeing how a linebacker room and defense is supposed to be ran. Mm-hmm. The players have voices. The coaches understood the players' needs at the time. Shepherd a lot of their needs throughout practice and in the game, and it was a really dope atmosphere of just collaboration. So when I'd say I was on my way out, but looking at them and especially the role that they wanted me to be in, they signed me and they say, listen, our 2 deep is strong. You come here and just be a dog on special teams, and that's all we need of you. Come to the defensive meetings and everything, but on special teams, like that is where you shine. I said, I can do that all day for you.
Yeah.
So I was fortunate to be with them for about a month. Got cut towards I think before the last game of the season, but fortunately enough, we submitted our pilot for All-American, and that was enough for me to walk away from the league.
So here's a question I have. When we were there, Josh Norman, J-No, he really he paid attention in meetings, but I remember one meeting specifically. Coach Wilkes is up there doing something, going over the game plan, and this fool is doing his taxes.
No doubt.
He is like legit doing taxes.
I've seen him in there opening mail too, boy.
Like
He been in there,
opening
mail,
like he is no SH. He's doing his taxes, and I'm sitting here like, yo, what is you doing?
Yeah.
And we're undefeated. We're having our Super Bowl run season. Is it true that you wrote a short story? What is it called?
Shortcuts.
Shortcuts, yeah. Did you write the synopsis to Shortcuts?
I did.
In one of the meetings?
I did. So this was maybe within my first 2 weeks of being with the team.
Yeah.
I was largely a free agent my last year. It was great for me because I was working on All-American in the afternoon, training in the morning just to stay in shape in case a team called. I get on with Carolina. Once I figure out the lay of the land and the flow of everything, all that, we're sitting in the defensive meeting room. It's like Wednesday or Thursday when you're putting in like some of the thicker install. And I just had this idea for a story of something that I experienced being back in Los Angeles for the 2 or so months that I was there, of when my barber just vanished. And as black men, we understand that, like, that's a horror story.
No doubt.
Trying to understand where you're going to get your hair cut, which is tied to your confidence and how you present yourself in the world, it was completely wiped away from me. So I ended up in our defensive install book writing I think it got to like 4 or 5 pages of what it would look like, how the different relationships are tied to like emotional relationships that we're tied to. I look up and I'm thinking I'm writing for maybe 5 or 6 minutes. It was like 45 minutes later, and it was probably one of the worst practices I've ever had because like I didn't write anything down. So I remember talking to like Shaq and those guys like, okay, so what do I have on this? Okay, are you blitzing this time? What's going on? So
it was like you ain't even been there.
Yeah, but to me it was a beautiful experience because I had a moment of terror of, oh, wow, I'm about to be exposed as somebody that's not prepared and whatnot, which I pride in my career on always being a player that coaches didn't have to worry about. But then right after that, I went, if I can be in a defensive meeting room with Julius Peppers, Shaq Thompson, TD, Luke Kuechly, and my mind is still on story off in the wind, this is probably a sign for me to walk away from the league. Because I was already sort of starting my transition, but that was the single most defining moment of going, I think it's time to get away from this.
And so what about screenwriting, like, calmed your nerves? Like, what about it that you figured about yourself that maybe it's taught you about yourself that, like, man, this is something I'm really good at it. This is what makes it so calming for you. Like, where does it take you?
I think it's just it's a conversation about confidence, about, you're essentially a god in this world. Like, you're deciding what color the trees are. You're deciding the characteristics. You're defining who your main character is. Like, what are their horoscopes? What are their signs and the emotions? So it's just like, for me, largely being like a role player on pretty much all of my teams, like knowing that I can sort of control the situation. I'm not trying to be the guy that's like, wielding, power in that sense, but the idea of creating something from nothing, taking an idea and then eventually a couple of years later it gets on air and becomes what it is in All-American. That was the fun part for me, of just understanding that those wild, crazy ideas that I had even as a kid or even through college and obviously when I started like actually learning how to screenwrite in the NFL, nothing's crazy. If you put it down on paper, if you understand sort of the structure of how to screenwrite, the world is your script.
So how did you learn the structure of it? Mm-hmm. And then I heard you mention earlier, like, you already had All-American. Like, you were like, I'm in these meetings, but I had already started on working on All-American. Yeah. So, like, when did that kind of start? And then, like, how do you get this structure? Yeah,
so the structure naturally came over the course of a few years. So the NFL off day on Tuesday, when we're all sore, beat up, we go to rehab in the morning, but we're really just like laying on the couch, like licking our wounds throughout the rest of the day, gearing up for, playing the next game. Every off day on Tuesday, I would see a new movie. Didn't matter runtime, length, whatever. Like, that was my ritual. Ritual was going to dinner and then seeing a movie. Over the first couple years, I just started understanding story structure just by watching it, just being like, okay, well, this is a low point, this is a high point. Oh, he has to make a decision at this point, and just really like allowing it to like just absorb it into me to the point where I said, okay, I see some stuff that's happening. Some of this stuff isn't really, I would do something different. Let me see if I can do something different. So I started downloading screenplays. And for those of you like listening, any screenplay, arguably any screenplay that you want to read, just type in the name of it and PDF. And that script will probably pop up in some form on the internet. So I was just doing that for a couple years, reading books on screenwriting, watching YouTube videos, and it really became that thing that would sort of bring down my adrenaline levels after games. So, when guys are, playing cards on the plane, watching the tape, or, drinking a little something on the plane, I was off to the side watching movies with subtitles. Sometimes I watch movies if I'm really tired, watching movies with no sound, no nothing, just to see if the feeling is still emoting off the screen based on the words that aren't being said to me. So it was really just an immersive experience that I was like, this is just interesting to learn. And one thing led to another, where I had a chance meeting with somebody and sent them a little bit of what I was working on. Not necessarily all-American centric, but just saying, hey, like, I'm writing something. I just want to know if it's interesting. And then that ended up getting me my first meeting with Greg Berlanti.
How was it was it easier having all these projects before you left the game? Because I think a lot of guys, they find a little bit of struggle as they transition and they're trying to figure out what they want to do. But to me, what I'm hearing you say is like, I had all this stuff ready. I was writing scripts.
It may be because there's pressure when you don't have, like, I'm not doing football.
Yeah.
And so, like, there's no pressure when you're just kind of just riding in the wind.
Yeah.
Kind of being in the moment.
No pressure. There was no pressure for me. I mean, again, I was never the $50, $100 million guy. I was that special teams guy that could look at the roster and go, okay, I'm really in competition with maybe 4 or 5 guys on this team for those couple special team spots. So knowing that, even coming into the league, I always did some type of job shadowing experience, internship. I was a guy shaking hands, grabbing cards, following up with coffees, that type of stuff. Did a couple internships. My most prominent one was a marketing internship with Quest Diagnostics. So it's Madison, New Jersey. It's right after the season. I'm licking my wounds, but I'm still, I have my little J. Crew bag and I got my little office, and it allowed me to just understand where my position can be once I walk away from the game.
Right.
I have an econ degree from University of Oregon, so I always thought, okay, New York Giant, econ degree, something's going to happen with Wall Street, business, finance, something in that world. But screenwriting was just this hobby that just got louder and louder in my mind. So it's not that I really had like any specific story I wanted to tell walking away from the game, but it was just literally a chance meeting of my now producing partner, Dane Mork, where the first night I met him was in my bye week, year 6. And we were just talking about both being from Los Angeles, growing up in Los Angeles, him in Palos Verdes, me in South Central, and having 2 different perspectives of what LA is. But yet when we're out in the world, it's like, no, we're both from LA. And you just know what that comes with. So after a few weeks, I went back to playing. He called me and said, hey, I had this weird meeting with Greg Berlanti. I told him about you. He said, it might be interesting that there's a black kid that goes to Beverly Hills High School, made to the league, and is teaching himself how to write. Can he send me something? So I literally put my playbook aside. I remember it was like a Wednesday or Thursday night. Put my playbook aside and wrote a 1-page document about just the ebbs and flows of what became All-American. And by that time, I had known how to take you on the ride of telling a compelling story. So I sent that off. A couple weeks later, I get a call from them saying something's interesting here. And I knew statistically we were eliminated from the playoffs. So I set that meeting like a month in advance. And my first day back in LA in the offseason, I went to Warner Brothers, sat down, had a conversation with them, and then I think 2 or 3 weeks later, we went into contract negotiations.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah.
That thing really heated up.
Yeah.
I want to know what was on. Do you still have a copy of that 1 page?
Oh, yeah.
I was wondering, like, you got to, like, put that up somewhere because you really hit them with it. 1 page.
Yeah. It wasn't even that. It was like more like a paragraph, but it was essentially just playing into the fact that no matter who you are, if you're the $500 million man or the guy just walking down the street, we all know what it feels like to live a universal truth of being an outsider in a new world. Mm-hmm. So yes, the show is about a young black kid from South Central going to Beverly Hills High and then potentially into the NFL, but it was also the story of an outsider entering a new land. And that's something that no matter who you are, race, creed, ethnicity, like you understand what that universal feeling is. And largely when you are pitching a concept like that can go on a CW or Fox or what have you, you want to capture a broader audience than who you just think is going to watch this. So, I was really just writing these stories to understand where my position would be outside of the league. But then once Spencer James became a like full embodiment of a person, it was like, okay, I think we could do some good here. So,
But was that easy to sell though because you actually lived it? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just saying from the standpoint of like living in South Central, but then now you're going around and like you from a ton of black people, right?
Yeah.
So every day you see people that look like you, and then all of a sudden you're in this new space and nobody looks like you. I have similar experience with that. I'm from a military side of the family or a military background, right? So I was always the guy who there wasn't a lot of people that looked like me.
yeah.
So then I went to Chicago, South Side, and then I went to a school and then everybody looked like me.
Yeah.
And I thought that was weird. I was like, what are white people at? Yeah. I had black teachers, black janitor, black principal.
Yeah.
But for me, that was like so weird.
Yeah.
Because I had always just been like the minority.
Yeah.
And I was cool with it. I guess I was just used to it. So then when I was placed in that situation, like, what age is that? What are Hispanics at? Where everybody else at? I was used to growing up in the military. Like you got a melting pot of some of everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for me, at an early age, I experienced that, and I know you said that too in one of your interviews. Like by the time you was 13, and then you get to high school, and then when you get to college, you're like, yo, I lived this at 14 already. Like I'm good, so I can navigate these worlds. Like how was that?
It was great. And to your point, sort of navigating both those worlds, you get comfortable in that swim. For me as 13, 14 years old, being thrusted into Beverly Hills even the real story is my uncle was a football coach at Beverly. So I had known I had known of Beverly Hills High School as the school I knew I was probably going to have to go to, but it was largely because my family had a football presence there.
Right.
Was never really on campus beyond the Friday night games, being maybe the water boy, the ball boy, what have you. But once I got there and I realized like, oh, I just went from South Central Inglewood, which is predominantly black and Latino, to, predominantly Jewish, Asian, and or other. Beverly was 2% black. But that 2% are still largely friends to this day. Like there's maybe 20 or 30 of those people that I still talk to on a daily basis because we got this crazy, insane group chat that like would get us all put in jail for.
Right.
If
We all got one.
We all
got one.
We all got one.
Say less.
But what it allowed me to do or experience at such a young age was to know that we are deeper than our skin color. It allowed me to understand so many different faiths, creeds, and ethnicities at a young age to the point where a lot of the stuff that's happening today, I can hit my friends from back in the day and go, how are you / your community like experiencing this? Like, let me know. But then on the other hand, it allowed me to be comfortable in any room I walked into. So to your point about even going to Oregon was also 2% white. 2% black. So I'm walking in, I'm like, oh, I've been here before. Like I know how to move and shake in this land. Where I did have a handful of players that kind of click up with the team and don't really experience life outside of just being in that little ecosystem of football. But I will credit a handful of those guys that they kind of looked at me and was like, okay, he's not really from our experience because when you look at the bios, it says Spencer Paysinger, Los Angeles, Beverly Hills High School. It doesn't say South Central, but went to Beverly Hills High School.
Right.
So a lot of my teammates just casually kind of pushed me to the side because they didn't think I came from a lived experience with them.
Right.
It wasn't until
like they couldn't relate to you.
Yeah, it wasn't until and I knew what they were experiencing, but they were experiencing something at 18, 19 that I experienced at 13, 14.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'm not going to damn you guys for thinking one thing or another about me, but in a sort of a beautiful way, AllAmerican allowed for some of those conversations to come back around. Now, I had a handful of my college players. I was like, hey, man, like, I actually didn't realize, like, you were from South Central. I know you told us, but we just didn't believe you back then. And I was like, no, I understand. It's not, I'm not fighting for my identity with you. I was comfortable in my identity and who I was. Right. But, I credit those players that end up hitting me up when they really didn't have to go, okay, like, we see you. You weren't lying to us.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Tell me this, though. So you entered the NFL as a rookie.
Yes.
Win a Super Bowl.
Yes.
All right.
So
now you enter into this second act as a screenwriter and have a massive hit.
Yes.
Right in there, right off. I mean, you told us, like, dude, I was in contract talks for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So you know the odds of that are extremely low.
Astronomically low.
And so when we bring that up, what is it when we just take a step back from that? Like, do you ever realize how much you accomplished and how the odds are against you to do that? And when I say these things to you, how does that make you feel inside?
It allows me to take a moment and go, wow, like that happened. Whenever somebody says that and makes that connection, I'm just like, how did I even get here? You know, I'm only 35 and I still feel like I have so much life to live and so many other careers to even partake in. Mm-hmm. But to understand, ironically, All-American season, production season, and like an NFL season, like eerily mimic the same sort of cadence. You know, we start writing the current season in the springtime. We go into production in the fall time, which will be fall camp. We premiere in the early fall and then go the next few months, which is the NFL season. So one thing that was really dope for me is in that pivot, in that transition, it was the cadence kind of largely remaining the same of when I had to like get up.
You get right back in the game mode.
So to feel that, to understand, like, there's a bit of survivor remorse with that, of why was I the person. And there's a long history of reasons of how I became this person. It's not just me. It dates back even to my grandparents and my great-grandparents being part of the Great Migration. So it's me honoring them as much as you say, like, all these great things. Like, I'm thinking of my grandparents and my great-grandparents right now, because I'm like, you guys made those decisions to, like, get out to Los Angeles.
Yeah, where'd they come from?
So on my dad's side, they largely came from Mississippi and Michigan.
I was going to say Mississippi.
Yeah, and then on my mom's side, Louisiana and Michigan. On my mom's side, Mississippi. So Great Migration, product of it.
Memphis 10, that's where mine came from. Moved straight up to Chicago.
Yeah, mine just kind of stayed in Alabama.
Just kind of stayed. They was like, we
never got out.
We like the weather.
We never got out.
So, All-American, you're in your 6th season, right?
Yes.
So you get there, you pitch this idea, you tell your story to a bunch of writers in the writer's room, right? And then all of a sudden, they come back and they give you a brand new product, and you're like, wait a minute. This thing happened.
Yeah.
Like, this was a brother, he's Latino.
Yeah.
But wait, that happened. Wait a minute. Like, the whole thing had changed.
Yeah.
How hard was that to trust the process and just say, let us take this, we got you, this is what we do? When you know your experience and you can tell your story.
It's a lived
better
experience.
than anybody.
Yes.
You lived it. You know how it is. How hard was that to trust the process of letting your writers just do what they do?
Oh, man, it was multifaceted. So when you're, to your point, because I love, like, you guys did your homework, and I feel like they do their homework. The original script, the original script actually had, a lot of people don't know this, but Billy Baker was originally Latino, which then changes the ethnicity of his 2 kids. And when I first got that, it's not that I wasn't mad at it. I was mad more so that, like, this wasn't my story. Right. The fact that, you know, we all have our own history that we love, that we vault up, and if anybody attempts to change that, we go, hold on, that's not what happened. Mm-hmm. That was happening to me at a network level that millions of people are going to see. So there was some initial trust from the early writers of going, hey, in order to tell a compelling story, we have to sort of change a couple things to make sure the teenage girl is watching this for the same reason the 60-year-old man is watching this, because there's a structure to writing a teen drama. So it was allowing myself to go, okay, I'm gonna trust you guys, but, like, can we tweak a couple things? And, you know, credit to some of the early writers and whatnot, and which largely a lot of them are still on the show to today. Mm-hmm. They allowed me to come in and tell my stories and put them in organic ways to elevate the show. And, you know, arguably, so our first season, our original showrunner stepped away. Nkechi Okoro-Carroll then took over as a showrunner and is now still the showrunner. She has, I believe, 3 shows on air. Incredible Black woman. Incredible, strong writer, amazing mentor, amazing champion for stories about us. If she didn't take the reins when she did, All-American maybe goes half a season, maybe a full season, and is kind of just like lost to history. So those early couple years of understanding that Spencer James is now changing my own history, it messed with me for a little bit. I would be completely, like, extremely vulnerable with you, because, again, our lived experience is something that, like, we vault. That's our story. That we own that, if nothing else in the world. And now I have people looking at me kind of mad that I actually didn't get shot, like it says in the TV show. I've literally had high schoolers go, "Oh man, you never been shot before," And I'm like, no, like you don't want, I shouldn't, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
So it was getting to a point where, realizing Spencer James had to serve a purpose larger than just telling my story. It was Spencer James and the cast largely reflect the teen experience in America today and for the past couple of years. We always felt every 7 to 10 years there comes that teen drama that sort of defines an era. It's Friday Night Lights, it's Gilmore Girls, One Tree Hill, 90210, those type of shows. Those shows never really had a black lead. Those shows never had black characters going through, unapologetically black stuff. And we felt if we did this right, AllAmerican stand up there next to those iconic teen dramas as just the next spoke in the wheel of teen dramas going down the road.
So, I mean, that's a great explanation. So, but I got to take it back just a little bit personal. So at any point in time, were you like, y'all gonna give me my script and I'm going home? Like, did that ever happen? And I want to know early on when you're starting to see some of these things, were you like, nah, that ain't it. Like, I want to come in and like, this has to happen.
Yeah.
Because
Trying to keep it real.
right. Because it is your story.
Yeah.
And so when you have to be able to give up the reins like this, I'm just like, man, that's got to be so hard. Because not only is this my story, but this is my life.
Yes.
And so you kind of spoke on that a little bit, but I just want to know from a personal standpoint, at any point in time, you're like, nah, bro, like I'm taking mine home. Like, nah, I'll go somewhere else.
There were a couple times where I had to have those hard conversations with our early showrunner of just like, why is this in here?
Yeah.
Explain this to me because I do not see a path forward with this being in here.
Yeah.
And, credit to them and the staff.
That's a very professional way to say that.
Well, so here's the thing. Like, I knew, especially in those early days, what an opportunity this was.
Yeah.
Right.
I knew that this was, if I've spent the last 4 to 5 years teaching myself how to screenwrite, and now I have people attempting to tell my story, I can use this. This is allowing me to get into the door, and now I can get busy in this world. So it wasn't so much being short-sighted of, I'm taking my ball and going home. It was, okay, I see some fucked up stuff, but how can I massage this in a way to where like we're still moving things forward, my voice is still heard, but then I'm also allowing this to spawn out and create other opportunities. So it was having that foresight to know that.
So I guess what I don't understand and what I'm confused on is you have a group of writers, right?
Yes.
So they write the story. Do you write anything else when it comes out, or is it just they write it and you make a couple edits, or like how much leverage? Not even more leverage. How much pull do you have when you say no? Let's change that.
So
Add this, do this, no, take that out.
What's amazing about our writers' room, especially again, shout out to NK and our staff, is it is an extremely collaborative experience.
Gotcha.
It's never, and for people in the writers' room, it's never you go off and write the script, and then we'll just come back and make sure everything's aligned. Every scene, every emotion, every dialogue is poured over by 10 writers, including me and the showrunner.
Got it.
So it's not so much I'm writing this, I need you to write the rest of it, or let me see and review to make sure it's good. It's before a word is even written, that writer who's tasked with writing that episode has a 10 to 12 page document going by scene, who's in the scene, what emotions are coming from the scene, what are we getting out of that scene, to then go off and write it. And that is what's largely with, especially in the earlier seasons, that I had such a great hand in helping craft. Now, like, I'm involved as much as I can be. I have a couple other projects that are in development right now in various stages. So it's like I can't be there as much as I can be, but whenever I go there, we get right back into it. It is genuinely a family / ecosystem, because our showrunner, if you do good work for our showrunner, NK, she will elevate you within the world of AllAmerican.
Yeah. So what other projects, I know you just mentioned, what other projects are you working on that you can speak of?
Yeah, so I'm currently writing a film for Kevin Hart's company. I pitched them a story. Again, we're in Inglewood right now. I went to school in Inglewood from K through 8th, and it's a story about a young black kid from Inglewood seeking his first kiss before the end of the world. It takes place the week of winter break, right before Y2K hits, so December 1999. And it's every bit The Wood, a little Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
The Wood.
Just like some of those neighborhood movies where, yes, the world is ending, but all this kid, our main character, cares about is getting his first kiss. So it's sort of an ode to my elementary school, my middle school.
Yeah.
A lot of the names that populate the script are my friends. A lot of them are still my friends till today. Another film I'm writing, actually, because we are where we are, is I'm writing a film about Bill Nunn II. So Bill Nunn was actually like one of the greatest NFL scouts to ever live. He's right now the only black man to enter the NFL Hall of Fame without ever playing the game. You know, this is a guy who in 1969, Dan Rooney hired him or convinced him to join the Steelers staff when the Steelers were one of the worst inept organizations in the NFL. And from 67 to I think he passed away, I want to say in 2014, he was sort of the architect behind what we know Steelers to be today. Mm-hmm. You know, in 1974, he found, or was technically the architect behind, the greatest draft class of any sport ever, where you guys know, if you're a general manager, you find one Hall of Famer, you're like, I can hang my hat on that. He orchestrated a 1974 draft that found them 5 in one draft, 4 drafted and 1 undrafted guy in Donnie Shell. So it's this crazy cool story of how a black scout in 1967 through 1974 created a energy, a dynamic around the changing of the black athlete from the more subdued, respectable Jackie Robinson in the 60s, mid-60s and whatnot, to the changing of the tide to now you're getting, you know, a Jim Brown, you're getting a Muhammad Ali, you're getting those guys that go, hey, if you hit me, I'm going to hit you back. So it's this cool story of how a guy is essentially shepherding a new black athlete into the NFL,
right,
making them realize they actually have power in this space. So really excited about that. I've been working with the family. Actually spent some time with the Pittsburgh Steelers about, I think it was last year, the year before. Just going through the archives, meeting with all the Rooney family, as many as I could. Mike Tomlin even says personally, there are conversations that me and Bill Nunn Jr. had that I cannot tell anybody. You know, he was such a powerful person, and you know, Lord willing, like we're creating an incredibly dope story.
Yeah.
Kind of with a little splash of blaxploitation in it because of the time.
Yeah.
This was a time in the 70s where, you know, black athletes specifically in the NFL, you know, you're seeing the Mean Joe Greens become who they were.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This is also the time when blaxploitation was at a pretty much an all-time high. This was the new next wave in cinema. I can only imagine what that looked like being a black player in the NFL, seeing yourself for the first time in a Shaft or a Superfly and as a person of prominence and is not getting killed at the end of the film and outsmarting people. How does that play on the field when you can see yourself for the first time in film being vaulted as a superhero and not a villain, you know? So
yeah.
Really cool story. I'm really excited to do it. We've been working on the story for some time now, and the materials are just about done. I'm just doing some small tailoring, but to me, Bill Nunn Jr. was every bit Denzel Washington, American Gangster. It's a Hidden Figures type story, but it's also a Moneyball type story because we're talking about the science of scouting.
Yeah.
You know, and we really want to get intricate with the science of scouting and how Bill Nunn found players, because it was a unique way in how he found players as well. So
that's really dope. Now, I got to go back a little bit because you did bring it up, and I'm sorry. I think it really took off in my own mind because I was really intrigued by it. And that is the whole, you got into the executive producing. You helped with the HBO show, documentary, BS High, which was about Bishop Sycamore and the scandal. And look, I got to be honest with you. I watched it.
It was good.
Yeah. That
good.
coach is still thrown off in my book. And like, he still believes like what he did was all right. And it's like, it's.
You can't tell that man nothing.
Yeah. So when I heard that you did this, I was like, I gotta know. I just gotta know. Yeah. Like, what did you learn from doing that show, well, that documentary about that coach, the situation? Like, just
How
share
hard
with
was it for you not to just say, man, you full of
yeah, thank you.
How
you know
hard
what I
was
mean?
it not to just, we all know he was lying.
Yeah,
and he act like he didn't care. I'll say it, bro. How hard was it? Bro, you full of it, bro. Stop. Stop it.
Yeah, because and then like when everybody else found out that, like, hold on. This isn't a real school.
Yeah.
This isn't like, it was a whole bunch of emotions from everybody. And so I was so happy that you did that documentary.
Man, thank you, because that was a documentary that it caught like wildfire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where when the story dropped, I actually didn't watch the game. I just heard it on Twitter just blowing up. I read an article and jokingly sent it to a colleague of mine that works with Adam McKay, and I said, we should go after this story. I didn't know what it was at the time. I just knew there was a team that got blown out by the best team in the country, and they should not have been there. there's a story behind this.
And they look like grown men, but now I know why they wasn't in shape.
So
It was grown men.
so I mean, I hit my colleague up. He sends me a message from Adam McKay, was like, go get this if you can. So that's all I needed. So I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, trying to figure out like some end to the team. End up getting in front of a handful of the players and the coaches. But mind you, there were other production companies like circling this story. So I'm an independent producer. I was just trying to like fight them off and using AllAmerican and go like, hey, I've lived the experience that you guys are trying to live. Like, let's have this conversation, because I know all of y'all could not have been in on this story. You know, like something's happening here. I was able to bring Michael Strahan and Adam McKay together to co-produce with myself. And it was just this crazy story of the truth is owned by whoever has the information. And for somebody like Roy, there's a gray area there that he lives and thrives in. And if you get too close to him, you can start to believe it too. You know, there's those long days on set and whatnot where you're hearing him talk and everything. And it's like, you know, he looks like us. He talks like us and everything. So you're hearing him, you're like, well, yeah, you are right. High school football is romanticized as this, like, let's do it for the lore of it all. But it's really a multi-billion-dollar a year industry. I just want a piece of it. And you're like, dang, you're kind of right there. So he throws up a lot of these half-truths, but then he'll sneak in a little bit of the lie in there and go, it's up to you to find it. So now you're kind of weeding through what's what, and you look up and he's just smiling at you, like waiting for you to like see if you did it or not. So it was an interesting 2 years kind of running and gunning with that project, going to Columbus, Ohio a few times out of the year. I think that the kids were absolutely wronged in some of those situations. But it's one of those things where I think the reason why the story hit so hard is because this wasn't a story that had a nice bow wrapped around it.
No.
It was a story that goes, if you hate me, by logic, you have to hate the system of high school football, because the system of high school football allows me to operate based on the rules that they don't have in it. So I'm going to be around. I'm not in jail, and I can do this again. And I think that's why the doc hit the way it did, because it wasn't this bad guy gets caught up and now he's in jail or whatever.
Yeah.
I look like your uncle. I look like somebody you know that coaches football that's in a position of power, and I'm free to roam.
Yes.
That should terrify you if you have kids or anybody you love playing prep sports.
So true.
So dangerous.
But
That don't even sound
it was
dangerous.
To me, it just kind of took over. It really did take over the country for a little bit, because nobody could really believe, like, how does that happen?
Yeah.
And so I'm really glad you got to bring that story to us all and share with us, because we all were like, how does this, like, how? There's no way this dude's able.
No.
But it was great that you were able to share that with us. So thank you. I really do. Thank you for that. I didn't even know that you did that till we started doing some research on this. So
Thank you.
I really, really appreciate that. Now, the thing that a lot of us deal with, it's perception versus reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so Coach Rivera would always tell us, you know, perception is reality until you change it. And so
People perceive you how they treat you.
yes. And so I wonder how you have to deal with this, is that that how often do you have to deal with, oh, you're a football player that's trying to be this writer, versus no, I'm actually more than the football player. Like, I'm a screenwriter now that used to be
A football player.
a football player. And like, not saying like, and look, for my whole career, I wanted to be known as more than just a football player. And then all of a sudden you're no longer a football player. And I'm trying to tell my son, no, dude, I used to ball. Like, I can't. And so everybody's in this constant battle of perception versus reality. And so with you in this industry, it's a completely different industry than most of us could never get into. And you've been able to crack into it. And not only that, but you're a young budding superstar in this realm. Like, how do you constantly deal with that battle and maybe the pressures that come along with it?
Yeah, there's definitely pressures with it. Absolutely pressures. And I think it wasn't until recently, maybe like a year or two ago, where, you know, when somebody introduces you, or you have to introduce yourself, and they're like, oh, what do you do and everything, you're just like, how much time do you have? Or
Yeah.
How far do I go back to start the description of who I am? And it was really me maybe about 2 years ago going, when I have to introduce myself, I am a writer producer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm no longer, I played in the NFL for a little bit, won a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I made the commitment to go, I'm a writer producer. Now, what comes with that is becoming a writer and producer, and knowing that when you say that, you can stand on your word, because if anybody asks to read something of yours or to see your work, you can take it out the bag and go, here, take a look. Do you want a feature? Do you want a short film? I have it all. So it was making that decision a couple years ago, making sure I defined it how I wanted to define it, because I to be honest, even that first year or so in that transition, there were people even on set of All-American that could not talk to me if they weren't talking about football.
Right.
Or would use a football pun when there was no reason. Like, we could be talking about like the financial market, we could be talking about real estate, whatever, and they'll go like, oh, like, it sounds like you really punted that, and I'm just like, what are we doing here? Like, we didn't need to take me down that route. Or
right.
There's some people on set that will go, hey, if you want to go play another season, like, we'll take it from here. You just come back when the lights are on. I'm like, no, you guys got to understand, this is what I love.
Right.
Therefore, I'm going to be here from sun up to sundown through the night. A lot of those early scenes, the early season football scenes, are shot from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. We call it beating the sun. So it's being on set during those dog days, during those dark hours, where it's like, if a box needs to be moved, I'm fine moving that, because that pushes the production forward.
Yeah.
And early on, there were a few people that just could not see beyond the bio of, oh, this guy's an NFL player, so I should only talk to him about football because that's all I think he wants to talk about. So
right. They didn't take it serious.
The pressure was there to go externally. They see me as something. Not that I want to prove them wrong. I'm just trying to prove myself right. I'm trying to prove myself right in the fact that this is not my new career. I'm deciding that this is my new career, and now let me go make it my new career. So it was a lot of doubt to start off of am I going to be the guy that just has All-American on the air? One of my biggest fears, and I know maybe we all experience it, is when you leave the league, you feel like this window is kind of closing on opportunity. The people aren't going to, maybe some people aren't going to answer that phone call anymore. They're not going to answer that email. That code email that you're sending doesn't carry much weight because it doesn't have Chicago Bears or Carolina Panthers attached to it, So I always had that fear of being the guy that had All-American on the air, not being the guy that, oh yeah, I don't know, All-American on the air, but now he has a couple other things that he's working on. That was my drive of not allowing football and even All-American to be the one or two things in my life that were able to pop off. Because I'm 35 years old. All-American, for better or worse, could be off the season in the next couple off the air in the next couple of years. If I'm 90 years old still talking about my playing days when you first meet me or All-American, like, I've kind of failed at life, because I've only lived hopefully my first third of my life.
Yeah.
So it's that want to continue to redefine myself, to chase the dreams that I define for myself, that gets me up, that allows me to pick up my kids, that allows me to go and say, like, hey, my son, my daughter, I want to be able to convince you guys that I played football, because you guys have never really seen it before.
Right.
And it's funny seeing my son look at like highlights. I've just recently showed him 1 or 2 clips, and he's like, are you serious, that's you? Like, you have a helmet. I can't like verify if this is you. I'm like, no, that's me. Like, look, your last name is on that jersey. And he's like, all right. He's only 4 years old, so he doesn't really understand it. But to me, that is a win, because he has seen me in so many other lights outside of just being the guy that played on the gridiron.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we always trying to ask everybody this question, and it goes a lot of different ways, and that is, who do you have on your Mount Rushmore of influence?
Ooh.
It could be on the field, off the field. This is yours.
Ooh.
You get 4.
Got kind of hot right there.
Okay, so you take that wherever you want.
Of influence, Barack Obama's up there. When I remember where I was, exactly where I was when he won the election. I was in my house in Eugene, Oregon, doing econ homework, and the entire town lit up, and I was like, oh man, I got practice in the morning, So Obama's up there.
So hold on, because I was not expecting Barack Obama to make the.
Yeah, of course.
Just because of what he accomplished, what he didn't get to meet him. Like, I get it.
Yeah, it's to know that historically he should not be there. And not only is he there, like we said, he knows how to command the room.
No doubt
He's
about
not somebody that's just happy to be there. He's like, all right, what we doing here?
Yeah.
That's something to me that was like, you can learn how to move. If more than anything, you can learn how to move like Barack Obama.
Okay, I like that.
The next person, sort of an unsung hero, is honestly like Larry Wilmore. You know, writer, producer, super producer for all the shows that, you know, the Insecures of the world, the Bernie Mac show, like, you know, even dating back to I Believe in Living Color, like Larry Wilmore has been sort of a curator of black television and film for the past like 30 years. Like he's the guy that people call to fix problems on their show. He's the guy to get, if a network has a good writer, director, or producer that they want to like, okay, we want to give this person something, we got to send them to Larry first so he can like kind of put it through the ringer to make sure the product is just as good. So he's absolutely part of my Mount Rushmore. Who else would it be? He stuck me with this. I would say my older brother, and the reason why I would say my older brother Justin Paysinger is he taught me how to respect football. You know, I was actually a basketball player growing up. You know, I wanted to go to UNC. I wanted to be a 2-guard. And it wasn't until I got to high school and saw how he carried himself and respected, his body and what he put into the game, that I was like, all right, if I have to play football to get to the next level, because my high school wasn't really sending anybody to D1 basketball, I now know how to do that because I saw my older brother doing that.
Right.
So he's undoubtedly up there. And lastly, I would say it would be my grandfather. You know, my grandfather's somebody that, and I know there's a ton more, but these are the ones that are on my heart right now. My grandfather was somebody that, again, as a product of the Great Migration, moving to Los Angeles, sending for his family once he, you know, raised a couple dollars and was able to get his own place. The house that I grew up in is the house that he raised my dad and my dad's brothers in. You know, the house, my dad still lives in that house, and with my son being there, there's now 4 generations of Paysingers that have populated that house. You know, this is a guy who, he died in one of the richest black neighborhoods per capita in the country, Ladera Heights. But you look at his legs and his hands, he still has scars from picking cotton because he was a sharecropper growing up as a kid. So his life story of going from sharecropping in plain dealing Louisiana to dying comfortably in his own bed in the richest black neighborhood per capita in the country is like, to me, like the American dream. And I recently went to his house that he grew up in, that we still own the land in Mississippi. And I kid you not, as soon as I stepped off, I just started bawling. I was by myself. I was doing a speed engagement in Arkansas, saw where the house was, drove that extra like hour or so. As soon as I stepped on the land, I just started bawling because I felt him, I felt my family, I felt my ancestors, and I just walked the land for hours, just picking up things, putting stuff down. And it was just my grandfather, my brother, Larry Wilmore, and Barack Obama. Top of mind right now in my heart, like those are the guys I would vault any day of the week.
Well said.
Well said, yeah.
Well said. I'm good. I'm good.
I like it. That's a good answer. That's a great answer. Great answer.
All right, man, get us out of here, Peanut.
Hey, thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all. Please like, share, follow, subscribe. Apple Podcasts.
5 stars.
5 stars. Give us a rating. Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio app. This is the NFL Player Second Acts. I'm Peanut. That's Rome. That's Spence. Hey, y'all. Appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for listening. We out.